I'm not going to take up too much of your time right now, but I have the pleasure of introducing comedian, writer, and produce, Mike Albanese.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room with
Go for John, huh? You guys remember me from earlier? You guys gonna participate for this one? All right, I like it. I love it. Yeah, it says produce outside. I think it's supposed to say producer. Not much of a vegetable guy. Already killing. Thanks for sticking around and coming through. I've done a couple of these before, and it's a lot of fun. And I'd like to say off the top, I know we've had Gary V and Al were here, so if you're not a fan of salty language, go ahead and you can go. Okay, good. Nobody left, so if they get emails that he said fuck, I don't really care. So yeah, this is it's a little bit about me. I guess if you don't know me or if you haven't seen me before, I'm a comedian, I'm a writer, I've produced a couple of different things, and I travel all over the country. I've traveled internationally, everywhere from Atlanta to New York. I've even been to Canada, which is pretty cool. That's my international part. I'm going to Alabama tomorrow, so that's also I consider international. Because that place is a little fucked up. Is anyone here from Alabama? Not enough of you for me to care. But here's something to know about me. I really know nothing about marketing. I'll put that out there. And I have a degree in marketing. I just learned what SEO means today. Does anybody here do that? Nobody here does SEO? A couple people? Oh, you're pointing to them? Well, cool. Well, I'm glad there's not a lot of you because I have nothing to help you with. Yeah, I don't know much about when it comes to the marketing side, but what I do know is humor. For the better part of the last decade, I've been touring as a stand-up comedian. I've been in a couple of shows. I've written this last year for these two of the highest grossing comedians on the planet. I wrote a lot of their special for them. Can't tell you who they are though, unfortunately. But it's this guy and what's his name? Those are the two. One of them roasts people. You might say he's a master at it. And the other guy gets her done. Okay, we'll move on. This is just a couple of things that I've done. I just want to show you guys that when you're listening to me talk shit, I've written for, I've been in shows, I've been in a couple of movies, I've produced things for some of these different channels and stations and networks. I've done a lot of work in the industry, and yeah, now moving forward, if you don't like what I have to say, you can just get out of here. Something I wanted to point out, this is a quote that I kind of live my life by as a comedian, is what Carlin said. This is a great Carlin quote that I think can be applied to anybody who's trying to approach anything with comedy or with funny. It's the duty of the comedian is to find out where the line is drawn and cross it deliberately. I feel like the best funny comes from a couple of key things, which is making sure that you're talking to the right audience and you know who your audience is, making sure that you put some of your own skin in the game, and making sure that you're taking the risks, because those three things I think will make for the funniest stuff. And at the top here, I'm going to talk just kind of about the process in which how I write and how I think that it can be applied to how you guys might be able to write, and then we're going to watch some funny videos because I kind of feel like a substitute teacher, and that was my favorite day in class. We're going to watch Rudy, and somehow we're going to make that apply to math. I don't know. I feel like in high school that was everything, like, all right, fuck it, we're watching Rudy today. It's like, I don't know what this has to do with history. I'm pretty sure that's just a fake story. All right, let's watch it. So, and also another quote I always like to live by is Louis C.K. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a new comic out of New York. Comedy isn't polite, it isn't correct, and it isn't even accurate. It's a mess. And that's the way I approach it. And I feel like everybody can approach it that way. Anytime you're trying to do anything with comedy, I feel like the more ridiculous, the better, and then hone the most ridiculous thing you can think of into what can work for you. And we'll get into that. There's a process that I like to follow with that. So the first one I was talking about is knowing your audience. I'm really good at Googling images, so you'll find that out here too. I was like, let's put a PowerPoint together. I got some images. And this is the crowd. This is, I feel like, every crowd I've ever performed in front of. So yeah, first thing is just to know your audience. I feel like that's important. A lot of people, when they're trying to approach funny or humor in their content, they don't know who they're talking to or who your future audience is. That's the other thing, is that who are you currently talking to and who do you want to gain as your audience when you're approaching it and trying to be funny. Because they know who you are and they know what to expect from you. The other thing, too, is not to force it. It's a rule I live by, is that don't overreach. Don't try to, and again, we're going to get into some examples of all this later. I'm just going to get through the bullshit now, and then we can have fun with the rest of this stuff. But don't force it. Has anyone here ever seen something that's ridiculous and trying to be funny, and it clearly seems forced? I feel like everybody can say they've at least seen that. You might not know a specific example, but there's so many things out there that are just like, all right, we get it. What are you doing? And yeah, that's just an important thing to know. I should get better at PowerPoint. You're right. Okay. I'd like to point out, too, that my website is inmyownhead.com, so you might see me living that mantra up here constantly. Something also important is that comedy isn't for everybody, okay? Sometimes you might try to insert humor, and it's not going to work, and that's okay. But you should always try. You're never going to fail by trying to make something funny. And to that note, I would like to also point out that comedy is subjective. There's no rules to comedy, but it's always subjective. So what's going to happen is that you're never going to be 100% right, and you're never going to be 100% wrong. And you're always just going to have to find a way to live in the middle of that, like this fun guy. How happy is that guy? Google images. The point is that you're always going to find somebody who's going to hate what you do, and you're always going to find somebody that's going to love what you're going to do, and you have to be ready for both of those, because nothing you're going to be able to do is going to please everybody, no matter what. Is anybody 100% happy with everything? It's never going to happen, and it's very important in humor. Taking a risk, that's the only way you can really find humor in things, is taking a risk, and to be, even if it's just a little 1% risky, you want to always make sure that you're sacrificing something. Something is going to come from people knowing that you're taking a chance. And I have some great examples of this coming up. Stray from the obvious. You don't want to be the person that's just stating the obvious in anything. And I think that that's the best part about comedy, is if you're taking somebody down a twist and a turn. You're always going to offend somebody. I already said it once, but you're going to say it again. You're going to offend somebody no matter what. The easiest, dumbest, most mundane street joke, someone's going to be pissed, and you're going to get a note. So be ready for that. And also, don't be afraid to make fun of yourself. That's the best part about any of this, is that the least somebody can get mad at you is when you make fun of yourself. Because if they get mad, you're like, I was talking about me, man. I was talking about me. I'll give you an example. This is a story that I tell. And I'm going to take a risk, because this gets a little weird. So I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to show you a picture that relates to it. I'm 32. Last year, I found out I have heart disease. That's true. I found out I have a heart problem. And just a heads up, I'm going to be fine. This isn't like a Make-A-Wish day for me. I'm going to be okay. I want you to know that going into this. I have a thing called atrial fibrillation. Has anyone heard of that? A couple people? If you don't know what it is, it basically feels like a heart attack all the time, which is awesome. And if you ever had a heart attack, not a lot of fun. But I found out I had it because I woke up one morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, thought I was dying of a heart attack. And I went to the hospital and found out I had atrial fibrillation. And look, I was 31 at the time. If you feel like you're having heart problems, if you take anything away from what I'm saying about this particular story, if you feel like you're having any heart pains, weird beats, don't fuck around. Do what I did. Immediately drive around for like 2 hours, try to cool off. I feel like that's the best way to cure a possible heart attack. Catch a cool breeze. That'll fix it. Whatever you do, don't call your mom. You've met her. She's pretty dumb. Because I called my mom, this is what she said. She goes, well, have you changed fabric softeners recently? Because they hear sometimes scents can affect your cardiovascular. Mom, we can't talk anymore. Our relationship is over. Well, Mikey, have you clipped your toenails? Because they hear sometimes the veins in your feet can travel up to your butt. Mom, Christmas and Easter, that's our new relationship. And we don't do Easter as a family. Then I had to go see a cardiologist, which is not 32-year-old talk. I don't feel I should have to say those words at 32. Terrible bedside manner, this guy. Never met that guy before in my life. And then I'll end the story here in a second. But I never met this man before in my life. This is how he introduced himself. He walked into the doctor's office, and he goes like this. He goes, Mike, nice to meet you. AFib at 31. Not that common. Which would have been bad enough if he stopped there. But then he followed that beautiful statement up with, I mean, we're the same age, man. That's weird. Yeah, that is weird. But for a different set of reasons. You're a 31-year-old cardiologist. I got to get my shit together. I got to get all my shit together. Thank you for the applause break, sir. And the reason I tell you that story is because I tell that story on stage. I've written that story. It's been used several times. But that's a risky story for me to tell because it's hard for some people to stomach the idea that I'm 31, or I was 31, 32, and I have a heart problem. And I tell very, intimate details about my mom, how she's an idiot. I talk about, well, she's not. She's a sweet lady. She's kind of dumb. I talk about, but with anything, you have to take the risk. I've told that story to tens of people. I've told that story in theaters. I've told that story, and sometimes it falls completely flat. And what I just told you was about 10% of the entirety of that story. So, but I'm ballsy. I go all the way through. I don't care. But the point is, you have to put a little bit of your skin in the game, put of your own skin in the game, and expect feedback, positive or negative. And here's a good example that has nothing to do with my story, but I feel like this is a really great example of somebody taking negative feedback and turning it into a positive for a campaign that they're doing. You may have seen this, and it's quick.
This is not acceptable. Bryce in Minnesota, you shouldn't have to get this from Domino's. We're better than this.
When we launched ShowUsYourPizza.com, we asked our customers to be the photographers, and we've been thrilled by the results.
But this, it really gets me upset. I'm Patrick Doyle, the CEO of this company. We're not going to fail. We aren't going to deliver pizzas like this. I guarantee it.
So we're extending our...
So while that's not necessarily funny, I think that's hilarious because on the other side of that, I was also watching, I'll explain the McDonald's thing. I forgot to put a blank slide in there. Sue me. I was sitting there watching people at Show Us Your Pizza and at their Instagram send the most disgusting pictures of pizza I've ever seen. And that's not what they were anticipating, but they were getting pictures of pizza in very precarious situations. Sometimes people were only wearing pizza. You know what I'm saying? So they took that negative feedback that it could be a horrible thing for them, and they were like, you know what? Fuck it. Look, our pizza sucks, and we know it. So that's a kind of a cool example. And here's another. So the McDonald's thing is an example that I always like because, again, I like to follow Twitter pages for big companies because specifically they try to engage people with like memories, and they will, tell us about your experience. And like Bank of America did it recently with Major League Baseball. And Bank of America is a very stand-up company. I feel like they do all the right things and they have their customers in mind all the time, no matter what. They billed me 2 years after I closed my account for an overdraft. They can go fuck themselves. So they try to engage a Major League Baseball memories. Like, Bank of America wants you to share your Major League memory. It's like, okay. And then everyone just started talking about how horrible they are as a company. And then they had to shut the campaign down because, like, oh yeah, we're assholes. We forgot. Funny ones like McDonald's, they'll say things like, meet some of our hardworking people and tell us about all of the stuff that you do. Like, that's the memory they want to share with you. And then it became an amazing thing of, I haven't been to McDonald's in years because I'd rather eat my own diarrhea. Hashtag McD stories. So that's a great example of somebody hijacking somebody else's hashtag, and they didn't respond to it. They just let it go. And I think that's a bad idea. I wish that McDonald's would have done something to the effect of like, well, that sounds disgusting. Like even just acknowledging the fact that nobody wants to eat their own diarrhea. Somebody else's diarrhea, I'm not here to judge you. And then, so yeah, leaving some skin in the game, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with what I was talking about my heart stuff. And now I'm going to show you something that I'm going to put a little bit more of my own skin in the game, just so that you guys know what's going on. This is a photo of me with my tits out. This is the best nip slip of the day. So this was my 5th time in the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. The reason I show you that is because I told you the story, right? And now I'm proving it to you because I want you guys to be on my side. I'm giving you, this is the inside baseball of me trying to make you guys laugh, which I think can be translated into something that you're trying to do. If you put any of your own skin in the game, if you make fun of yourself a little bit, if you talk about yourself and bring it around to a point, then people can be engaged when it comes to stuff like that. So I feel like that's an important piece to that. Be vulnerable in whatever you're doing. You're always going to get feedback, positive or negative. We talked about that. And keep it relevant. Keep any humor that you're attempting relevant, as well as your response. So like how McDonald's didn't respond, and I'll show you a great response here in a minute that people were doing with a really funny campaign for stuff like that. So, okay, let's talk about how you can do this. Like how this is a method that I use every time I'm writing. Anytime I'm writing for a different company or writing for a campaign or for an ad agency, I have this, this method I call the reaching method, or it could be called the ladder method, or make up a new name. I don't really care. I made this up, so feel free. It's up to you. So basically what this is that's a ladder. Any questions? Okay, moving on. No. So here's how I always approach anything. I always try to find a baseline of whatever it is the campaign. Or is anyone here working on something or like on a project that they want to share real quick? It doesn't, I'm not going to make fun of you probably, but I was just curious. Okay, I don't talk marketing. A bus tour. Okay. Cool. So the next idea I had was, so the basic idea is take the core of what you're trying to do. Like you're trying to do a bus tour. And so whatever the goal is for that, take that goal as the baseline for anything. And then what I do, and when I do this reaching method, is I reach for the farthest, most ridiculous, incomprehensible concept that could be funny. Foul, disgusting, no one's going to like it, just absurd. And then from there, I work backwards. I go one step below that, and then I go one step below that, and I go one step below that until you find a happy median. And here's why. You're walking up a ladder, when you're going up a ladder and you start at the bottom, you take it step by step, you know, but you can skip. If you're going up, you can skip, you can go 2, you can go fast when you're going up a ladder because you're going up. It doesn't matter, you're in control. But when you start at the top, so like when you do it, yeah, so you can go, it could be less rungs essentially, less steps on the ladder. But if you're going down a ladder, you take every single step because it's terrifying. You're going every step, making sure you're not slipping because you could fall all the way to the bottom. So the idea with that method is that if you find the most ridiculous thing and then slowly work backwards, you can find a piece of funny that you may not have discovered before because you've already reached the ridiculous. But if you start at the bottom and just start at the baseline of where you're looking and like, oh, we want to do a marketing tour for a bus, we'll do wheels go round and round, that'll be hilarious. You may not find what could be potentially the funniest thing you have because you're skipping steps because you're starting at the bottom. So my method and this thing that I always like to do is find the farthest, most ridiculous thing you can do and go from there. Another way, if you don't like that idea or the ladder thing, is a circle. Is where you take the basic idea, like a pie, and write it in a circle, and then start thinking of every possible idea around it, and just write out every idea. Have a meeting if everyone's coming in to adjust, to figure out, and to write on this. You write every possible idea that you can on a big wall or however you like to do it, and then start branching into the ideas away from there, and then you can start connecting the dots. This is a method that I use, and I know a lot of people use when they're writing, and it really helps kind of get the process started to try to find what could be the funniest thing that you got. Okay, so here's the perfect example. Here's my favorite example of the far-reaching. A company that took an idea that could have gone super simple with it, and they went ridiculous with it, and it worked. I don't know if you've seen any of the new Samsung waterproof phone commercials, but here's that.
Do you sell high-end champagne?
In the back.
Have a good night.
The new water-resistant
That's funny as shit to me. Because they could have done something like the wheels go round idea we're talking about the bus. That's the next step. That's like the easy thing that we go. They could have done, oh, look, put the beach by the beach. Or, oh, at the pool, oh, I got water. Tee-hee-hee, it's waterproof. That's easy, and they could have done that, but they went ridiculous with it, and it worked. Let's pour champagne on it like a bunch of assholes. That'd be great. And they did it, and it worked, and I thought that was brilliant. This next one is a commercial that I was in that I think is funny, and this is also kind of moving towards the ridiculous, and I'll tell you a story after about it where they almost took it, but they chose not to. But this is promoting hot chicken, spicy chicken, and I saw some of the things, the ideas they had, and they went to a pretty far place by not saying a word in the commercial. It's just all reactions to chicken, which I think is funny. And also, I'm in it, so I'm a bit of a narcissist.
Church's Spicier Spicy Chicken marinates all night long. That's a whole lot of spicy. Get 3 Spicier Spicy or original.
So they took what could have potentially been just a standard commercial, like, oh, this shit's hot. You know, they could have gotten weird, like easy with it, but they went a little bit farther with it. Also, I'm in it, so I like it. But one of the things they almost did that we shot was all of us cursing the entire time, and they were going to bleep it out. So it's going to be a commercial of bleeps. And we filmed it, and it was weird because nobody knew it was happening until we saw it on the monitors, and we're like, is she just saying motherfucker? What just happened? But they could have done that, and they didn't. I wish they would have, because I think that would have been a much funnier commercial, and I think it would have gotten farther reach. But again, still, they reached far for it, worked their way backwards. They took one step down, and it worked for them. That campaign ran for, I think, 2 years, and I think that actually still, there's some iteration of that still running around the country, which is cool. So, which means it worked, which means that what the humor they were going for in that worked. And so now another one about negative feedback, turning it into a funny commercial. I don't know if you've seen any of the Brookside chocolate commercials with this great comedian named John Doerr, but these are some funny ones too.
After trying Brookside chocolates, Christopher B. wrote, "Why is this bag only 2 pounds? We couldn't tell if you were joking, Christopher, so we made a 100-pound bag." Thanks, George.
And then they had another one too.
After trying Brookside chocolates, Ryan wrote, "Better than." Why'd I get bleeped?
Can't say Brookside chocolates are better than.
I didn't say they were, but Ryan said they're better than.
Just stop saying they're better than.
It's not my fault they're better than. They're good. Brookside, talk about delicious.
But that's a great example of a chocolate snack company cursing, essentially, with the feedback from so taking the negative and spinning it to what you need to do is hilarious, and I think that's some of the funniest things you can do. But also, they own whatever flaw is being perceived as well, and that's a beautiful thing. I was doing this somewhere, I can't remember where it was. Doesn't matter, I have a terrible memory. But somebody asked if they had I should have thought about this before. What's the big, the Biltmore, that's what it was, the Biltmore. And they asked, we're like, well, what do I do? How do I make that, like it's a stuffy old company, and I'm trying to be funny with it. And I was like, well, you just answered your own question. It's a stuffy old company. Be the stuffiest you could be. Play within what you are, and then all of a sudden you can open the gates wide. And I've been getting emails like, oh, look at all this fun stuff we're coming up with. This is amazing. Just, it's right. Most of the time, the funny is going to be right there in front of you if you just accept the fact Accept who you are, be willing to take the risk, and leave some skin on the table. And I'm telling you, the funny will come to you. Good wrap up on that statement. So, and then talking about risk taking and talking about skin in the game, all of what I just said, I think, comes to a point. I'm not sure if somebody played this video today. I don't care. I don't think they did. But to me, this is one of the funniest campaigns in the last 5 years, but it shows you everything kind of about what I was talking about today. And don't ruin it if you've seen it.
Ship my pants? Right here? Ship my pants, you're kidding.
You can ship your pants right here.
You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just may ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Billy, you can ship your pants too.
I can't wait to ship my pants, Dad.
I just shipped my pants, and it's very convenient.
Very convenient.
I just shipped my drawers.
I just shipped my nightie.
I just shipped my bed.
If you can't find what you're looking for in store, we'll find it at Kmart.com right now and ship it to you for free.
Ship my pants.
Oh, that was a double. So Kmart just said on a commercial 10 times, shit my pants. That's what they said. They should ship my pants with a P, but they were saying shit my pants on a commercial 10 times over. Because what? What do they risk? Honestly, what does Kmart have to lose? Let's be honest. Seriously. But that attitude probably increased their online usability, the clicks on their website, the shipping on their website, because they don't have anything to lose, in my opinion. But with that attitude, they came up with something amazing. You know, so you don't have to necessarily be on the verge of bankruptcy and people forgetting that you exist in order to come up with something hilarious. But if you take that attitude and you take that with you when you're trying to create any kind of content that's can be funny, you can come up with some brilliant stuff, which I think is great. That's my information. If you want anything, I write for all kinds of different publications and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you need help with anything, let me know. Does anybody have any questions or any, at all? Yeah, really? I thought you guys liked me. I live in New York. I used to live in Atlanta, actually. I lived in Atlanta for a long time, but I've been in New York for a couple of years. Very relevant question to what I talked about. Thank you. To what? Well, yeah, but that's just the rest of the country doing that. So I don't think it matters where I'm from. I'm kidding. Somebody? Yeah. Oh, cool. My wish. What would my wish be? Better questions from the audience. I feel like would be right. Currently, my wish. Relevant content. I would like that. Okay. Yeah. The most successful idea I've passed to a company. Man, I just submitted and got approved for a Unilever, which is they do a lot of like home products. I just sent in a product, a commercial idea where they're like a stain remover, where the commercial is a guy spilled a drink on his pants, but everyone keeps telling him that he peed himself, essentially. And he's like, no, I didn't. Like, no, it takes anything out. It takes urine out, anything you want. No, it's wine. Like, I spilled the wine. Anyway, it's not out yet. But to date, it's a pee-pee commercial that I've that I've worked on. Yeah. A robotic lawnmower funny. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. I think that's pretty funny. No, I was being. Do you want to talk to me? I have like 1,000 ideas that just ran through my head. So but stick around. I wouldn't mind talking to you about that. I submitted to Digital Summit that I should do as comedy talk. So far, I feel pretty good about it, but we'll see how the responses when the emails come in. A lot. I've done a lot. I've submitted probably 500 different ideas that mostly get rejected. That's the other thing too, is if you're doing anything with comedy, or if you're submitting, or if you're writing anything, you're going to hear 1,000 no's before you hear a single yes, no matter what you're doing. I audition for things all the time. I write for people, and they're like, no, 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 and just don't feel like if you're the one submitting the idea, if you're writing the idea, it's not personal. That's just a part of anything, but it's no's constantly. And you'll get the one yes, you'll get there eventually, and you'll figure it out, and that's a great day. But don't take any of the no's personally, because you hear them nonstop, which it sucks, but you get used to it. Case in point. Yes, sir. The most important thing, I could probably say there's 2 or 3 things. First thing is don't steal. Don't take somebody else's idea and pass it off as your own. That's one of the only real rules in comedy is don't steal. And then be personal, you know, because somebody can't steal my heart story that I told you earlier without it being obvious, because that's not a joke. That's not a, hey, guy walks into a bar that anyone can do. So if somebody else did that joke, you would know for sure that it was me, or I would know it was me, because that's my story, that's my fact, and that's my life. So yeah, be personal and don't steal. Don't take anyone else's stuff. We're out of time? Hold on. How much do I cost to hire? How much you got? Let's talk afterwards. Come up here afterwards, but all of it. I would say all of the money you have. Well, so far, I mean, all right. You wouldn't have asked if you didn't want to hire me, so all of it, I would say, still. One more. We'll do one more, if anyone has one. No. Pretend like you don't have anything to lose. You have to act like you don't have anything to lose in order to find what's the funniest. Obviously, Kmart had nothing to lose. That's the only example I could find of not having anything to lose, because if that failed, they still are irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. So, but pretend like you don't have anything to lose, because that's where you can find the farthest you can go, and then pull back from there. That's the idea. It's like go the farthest you can go, and then pull it back until you figure out what's right for you. Because again, everything's not going to be funny to everybody, and you need to be within your own voice and don't push too far, and be yourself. So you just want to make sure that you're staying within those bounds, but far-reaching as possible. And then you'll find some stuff like shit my pants, or things like that. So is that it? If you want to talk about anything, you hang out. I'll be here. Thank you, guys.
We've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes to our next presentation. Nice job.
I thought it went okay. I feel like I was rambling about like my ideas, but we'll figure it out.